Oh,
Welcome back, Beans Army, to another episode of the Less is More Sports Podcast, the college offseason podcast, where you could say we're less of the regular season, but more of the offseason. This podcast is inspired by a quote from a head coach that I know all too well and may or may not be leaving us here in the near future. He says he's happy in Durham, but we all know how far that happiness goes when Texas A&M can write a big old check that he can't refuse. So, anyways, Duke head coach Mike Elko sent a warning the other day to college football regarding the transfer portal this year. And I quote, "We're about 13 days away from complete anarchy and the Wild West. It's literally open free agency for all of college football." I don't know that anyone is immune to what is going on in the transfer portal. It just is what it is. And you've got to put together a strategy to retain your players, and NIL is a big part of that. And where that inspires today's episode is that the last couple years we've seen over 2,000 players enter the transfer portal, and we've seen some big names end up in new places. So what Matt and I are going to do, if he doesn't want to completely like smack his head into the wall from the basketball he's watching, shout out to Louisville basketball, by the way.
oh my God, this game is fucking terrible.
Love it. But anyways, Matt and I are going to give our top five hypothetical college football transfers. Obviously, we are not reporters, we are not journalists, we don't have any inside scoop. We're just two fans of the college offseason that are like, hey, this sounds like a pretty good idea. So let's run with it. So, anyways, before we get started, though, I do want to add one more thing. And given the transfer portal, Matt, I'm amazed of how many people are too lazy to do a 5-second Google search. And you already know who I'm talking about. I'm regarding Arch Manning because if you haven't been following along, Quinn Ewers has announced that he may potentially return to Texas next year. But of course, anytime you talk about a Texas quarterback situation, everyone starts going to, oh, what does this mean for Arch Manning? He's going to transfer. But if you like literally did a 5-second Google search, you would see that Arch's family preferred him to redshirt this year so that he could learn the system and then not be rushed into anything. Not to mention, Archie silenced all critics and said he's happy with his decision. He's happy in Texas. And of course, all the ones that are like, dang, Arch was really third string for most of the season. I mean, are you not following Texas football? Like, this is a surprise. And not to mention, if you all are freaking out that much, I mean, I feel like Arch's uncle knows a thing or two about this. I mean, he was a number one recruit coming out of high school as well, and he was a third string at Tennessee his freshman year. Hell, the guy who started above him went on to pursue a career in baseball. So, I mean, people
Hey,
just love to overreact and love to click on things, but I just had to get
future
that
Hall
off
of
my
Famer
chest.
Todd Helton to you. Future Hall of Famer. This is the year, baby.
Is it though?
Yes.
I feel like we've been waiting on the this year for a while.
Yeah, but this year the ballots got fairly empty. Adrian Beltre's on first ballot, but they got to
For
vote for
sure.
somebody. They might as well vote for Todd Helton too. I mean,
I mean, I'd be
get
cool
that
with that.
Ford Field
Hey,
nonsense.
I like Todd Helton. I'd like to see him in the Hall of Fame. Hell, I
Me
mean,
too.
this is a conversation for another podcast because we're the college off season. We talk about college football and college basketball,
We
but
reference everything to let people know that we know the wide world of sports
we do throw references in there. But
and
to our
Godzilla.
core, we are college basketball and college football. Just
That
to
is
clear
true.
that up. But a topic for another podcast is that I think Barry Bonds and Mark McGuire should be in the Hall of Fame, but that's just my opinion. And
Oh,
Pete
I
Rose.
have I have a diatribe, man. I've got a theory, a diatribe, and a plan.
I can't wait to hear it sometime.
All right, you
Anyways,
will.
let's dive into our top five transfer destinations or hypothetical transfers. Matt, who kicks off your number five on your list?
Well, I just realized this about my list. It's because I guess I've been watching Gardner Minshew and Indiana football and Indiana offensive basketball and Louisville's offensive basketball. Well, all my picks are offensive, so I
Actually,
just
mine
went
too.
by I just went by what would be the most fun thing on earth for me to see. So all of these involve multiple players going to like very interesting schools. So my number five here, I've got Will Rogers from Mississippi State, Marion Brown from UK, and Ja'Cory Brooks going to the shoe, going to Ohio State, replacing Kyle McCord, rebuilding that offensive core without Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Ibuka. So that's my number five. I have no reason for putting that other than the fact I think it would be hella fun. And if there's anything we've learned this season, that McCord has some limits. I think if you really want to capitalize, if Ryan Day stays, you go out and get a veteran transfer like Will Rogers. Varian Brown and Ja'Cory Brooks are just fun guys. I like their speed. I want them on Ohio State because I want to see an exciting Ohio State offense again.
That would be really interesting because Ohio State does have a lot of talented quarterbacks in their quarterback room. They have another very talented quarterback prospect coming in next year in Aaron Nolan. And of course, they are loaded at the wide receiver room. So that would be a very interesting thing if that actually did come to fruition.
I would love that.
And that's the thing. That's what I love about these hypotheticals is that they don't even have to make any sense at all. We just might think it's cool.
Just
Because,
do it. Yeah.
yeah, one of mine is a completely, I just think it would be cool situation. And I also love that we both have Will Rogers on our list, low key.
We didn't really talk much about Mississippi State, but they were before the season. They were an interesting team, and then it just didn't work out.
Fair enough. Anyways, is it time to go on to my number five?
Yes, please.
All right, my number five, and it's very ironic given my opening rant. Um, I don't think Arch Manning is the quarterback that transfers from Texas, but I think Malik Murphy is going to transfer from Texas, and I have Malik Murphy going to Washington of all places. And look, with Quinn Ewers potentially returning and Arch Manning happy with his decision, and how also given how Texas fans reacted to two of Malik's starts, I think it's time for him to maybe look somewhere else. Washington would be an interesting fit because the Huskies have basically had the best passing attack the last two seasons, and quarterback Michael Penix will be out of eligibility and more than likely get drafted. Current Washington backup Dylan Morris started in 2021 and was the catalyst of one of the worst offenses in college football. So if you thought that was going to have a positive impact, positive take, you're wrong. The Huskies may look to reach out to a quarterback with a higher ceiling, and especially one that has an absolute bazooka of an arm, which is a big factor when you look at how much Washington's offense is predicated off of the deep ball. So my number five is Malik Murphy to Washington. I do want to see Malik Murphy play college football. I just don't think he's going to get too much of an opportunity with us.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And Washington is kind of a good place to revitalize your career. I was going to say, we all know that the Pac 12 is an offensive league, but guess what? The Pac 12 doesn't exist.
No,
So,
Pac 12 is gone.
he's going to be playing Iowa. And, as
Iowa.
much as I love Iowa, you got to play. You can probably outscore Iowa very easily. So, I like that one. And for my number four, speaking of the Big Ten, in fact, three of these are Big Ten
I
related.
love the
Well, four.
transition, by the way. I love the transition too.
Four of these are the Big Ten. One of the big topics of conversation was the Big Ten West and how it's the most abysmal football league in the history of football and yada yada. Well, guess what, people? The Big Ten West doesn't exist anymore. We're going divisionless. We're getting West Coast. And what part of the fun of that is going to be revitalizing one of the westernmost classic teams of the Big Ten when I declare that Dan Key from Kentucky, Kevin Coleman, oh wow, from Jackson State, and Devin Brown, the quarterback at Ohio State, are going to Nebraska.
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 Wait, is that the same Coleman that played at U of L this year?
No.
Oh, okay.
Is it? Did he transfer from Jackson State?
Yeah, we're talking about Kevin Coleman. Yeah, he played at U of L this year.
The board lied to me. The board lied to me, Les. It said it was a Jackson State still.
I got nothing on
The
that one,
board
bud.
But still, Dan Key and Devin Brown would be pretty darn good pickups for Nebraska. You know,
Nebraska.
Nebraska. Like I said, I'm sending Will Rogers to Columbus. So you know what, Devin Brown, you get to go be your own man out west, experience the fun of the Corn Palace and Mitchell, and bring Nebraska football back to relevance. Dan Key is just one of those guys who I think is really fun. So you know what, I'm going to go with them going to Nebraska and not Kevin Coleman because the thing I used for research lied to me.
Well, that is unfortunate. How dare you
Exactly.
research? Remember, children, always check your sources. But anyways, my number four is I'm referencing a player that I have talked about maybe once or twice on this podcast. My number four is Ashton Genty to Notre Dame. And my thing is, there's really no big rhyme or reason with this one. Audric Estime had a great season for Notre Dame, and because he had a good enough season, he may decide that he wants to go pro. We don't know. Only time will tell. But when I just watched Genty play, I look at the running backs that have had success with Notre Dame over the last decade, and Genty just has a very similar running style. So if you get Ashton Genty, a guy that had over 1,000 yards rushing, over 500 yards receiving, and you get him behind an offensive line that is as historically good as Notre Dame's usually is, just watch out what he's going to do. So I no rhyme or reason. I just think this would be really cool. So my number 4 again is Ashton Genty to Notre Dame. Also,
For my
forgot to mention he might want to transfer because Andy Avalos is gone.
yes, he has the get out of get out of Boise free card because of that 30-day transfer window after a coach is released. You know, it's funny you mentioned Notre Dame because for mine, number three pick, I was thinking about how do some teams sustain success. And I was thinking about this involves two things. Number one, some things just work, and number two, college football needs to be more socialist. And so I'm going a little bit further to the north of you for my number three pick. I'm going to send Oscar Delp from Georgia, the great tight end, backing up right now, and Jaden Ott, a really good running back from Cal, the Golden Bears, to Michigan because it just makes sense. Michigan has built up their current dominance in the game, I'm sorry, and in the Big Ten based on really good tight end play and really good running back play. So why the hell not keep it up, man? You know, go out and get some depth. Besides, Georgia has too many good players. That's the bottom line. I am redistributing the means of Georgia's production. This is Carl Matt coming out and fixing college football in the name of Michigan. So I've got Oscar Delp and Jaden Ott going to the Michigan Wolverines.
I like it. I like it. Number 3, and I'm not even going to lie, this is a straight NIL move, but I have Smoke Bowie to Colorado. I actually lied at the beginning of the show. I don't have all offensive players. Smoke Bowie is a DB. And
Oh
Smoke
wow.
Bowie is currently the top rated player in the transfer portal. Now, obviously, it's way too early for that to really mean anything. And I'm imagining a DB with that cool of a name teaming up with Coach Prime and the NIL value that's going to come with that. Bowie
Mm-hmm.
played in 7 games in 2022 for Texas A&M and didn't see the field for Georgia this past season. Also, looking at Colorado's season, they've given up over 3,300 yards and 28 touchdowns through the air. Coach Prime could be wanting to beef up the secondary and bring in someone to line up in the nickel corner alongside Travis Hunter and Kamani McLean.
Mm-hmm.
It also must be a state of Colorado thing to have kind of like a no-fly zone, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Boy,
Boy, I know
boy.
it's not a less is more sports podcast without one of my lame puns.
Hey, that's what the people tune in for.
That's right. Think of your time for you to move on to your number 2, my friend.
Oh
Unless you
yeah.
just want to tell me I'm wrong about Smoke Bowie going to Colorado.
No, you're right, Les. Because get ready. Oh my. Oh my.
It must be bad.
Well, Colorado, New Mexico State missed two walk-off three throws to go to overtime.
Ooh,
That's
and
brutal. Okay,
that is
moving on to
brutal.
number two. Speaking of, I don't think we planned this, but it's funny you mentioned Colorado because my number two also involves Colorado because that's just what they are. They eat up that narrative so much. But you decide to go with the defensive side of the ball, and meanwhile, I'm sending Emory Jones from LSU, the offensive lineman, Evan Stewart from Clemson, Zach Rice from UNC, and PJ Williams from Texas A&M to Colorado because damn it, we need to protect Shadur Sanders.
Wait, at which Evan Stewart?
The one from Clemson.
There's an Evan Stewart that plays for Clemson?
Don't tell me the board lied to me again.
Are we talking about a wide receiver?
No,
Oh, okay, okay. I guess
no.
because there was an Evan Stewart that was a wide receiver that was a heavy Texas recruit, but ended up going to A&M. That's
Oh
the
yeah,
Evans. That's the first Evan Stewart that comes to mind.
no. This is
The
the
board did not
offensive
lie to you.
lineman.
I'm just an idiot.
Oh, get ready for that, Les. Get ready. No, this is the Evan Stewart from Clemson, who's an offensive lineman. Basically, what I've done is I've taken the top five offensive linemen from every NFL draft big board and sent them to Colorado because, damn it, we need to protect Shadur Sanders.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to have more fun with Colorado. And one of the biggest issues why we can't have fun with Colorado is they don't have an offensive line. We're bringing in the Louis Vuitton bags. I don't know what kind of devil magic this takes. I don't know how much NIL you have to add. I will offer these kids like a 175 acres somewhere north of the Rockies. If they will just come to Colorado and make Colorado as fun as they were the first 4 games of the year.
And
So that's what
unlimited
I'm doing.
pancakes at the local diner.
Unlimited pancakes. They get to ride Ralphie into the stadium if they want. That would be kind of
Or
cool, actually.
Ralphie.
The buffalo, yeah, they can ride him. He's a well, technically bison. If anybody ever says buffalo when like you're at Yellowstone National Park, they're wrong. Buffaloes are old world, bison are new world.
There you go. The more you know, guys.
The more you know, people. And
Don't, yeah,
so
don't question Matt in this type of knowledge.
I'm sending like everybody who can play offensive line to Colorado because can you imagine how much fun Colorado would be if Shadur Sanders was healthy and on his feet all the time?
Yeah, and not to mention if they could stop a middle school team on defense, but yeah,
Yep. So you've taken care of the defensive side. I've taken care of the offensive side. It's what we do.
look at us tag team in this.
My number
Dion should
two.
just Dion should just hire us. Be like a
Look,
team strategist or something.
we can convince kids to come. We got that. We have the Riz.
We have the secret weapon. That's Bean.
Yes, we could just send Bean to their houses and he can threaten them.
There he
Look
is.
at him. He's just standing there menacingly. Anyway, yes, not my number two is like every available offensive lineman to Colorado. So I'm ready for your number two if you're ready to deliver it.
Oh, I have my number two because I thought this was funny that we both have Will Rogers on it on our list. I have Will Rogers going to Louisville of all places, which I feel like would be a very interesting combination because Rogers, he is the all-time passing leader at Mississippi State, and he's the SEC career leader in completions. But rumor has it that he is expected to enter the portal. I don't know if he's officially made that official yet, but he is expected to enter the portal. But I say, like, why not go to Louisville? The Cards had a resurgence this year under first year coach Jeff Brom. I know it's not his first year as a head coach, it's his first year with Louisville because you're always going to have that one person in the comments who's like, well, it's not his first year. I know, trust me, it's his first year with Louisville. But regardless, what he's done in 1 year at Louisville is absolutely amazing. I put this on Twitter and I stand by this. I think he should be the coach of the year in college football, my personal opinion, and I'm not just talking the ACC either. Also, he's an offensive minded coach that's recruited a ton of weapons over the last couple of years. And current quarterback Jack Plummer is out of eligibility.
Yeah,
Also, I think that when I watch Rodgers play and I look at the quarterbacks that have been successful in like a Jeff Brom scheme, I just think it's a perfect fit. So I feel like Will Rogers, if he's tired of not seeing results in the win column, go to a resurging program like Louisville, get out of the SEC, and maybe compete for a conference championship, and then play into a system that really fits him.
I think you're right. I mean, that's a good point to make. Uh, I just don't know if he'll want to go a little bit bigger than Louisville. That's what I'm curious to see. Because I mean, at this point, he's the he. I don't want to say he's probably going to be the hottest commodity because we don't know who's coming in, but he'll be one of those top guys that people are going to fight over.
Oh,
So
for sure.
interesting to see. So for my number one, I also have a quarterback who came out and said he was not leaving his school, but damn it, this is hypothetical. I control this universe, and I'm making it happen. And that's Drew Aller. You're not at Penn State anymore. You're joining with Chris Marshall and the other Evan Stewart. This is the one you're thinking of, Les. And
Okay.
you're all going to USC because that's just what USC do. They go out and they get the best quarterback they can and revive his career. They go out and they get good wide receivers, and you know what? Then they start winning games. Now their defense needs to be better. We all know that. But part of having a good offense is blah, 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 blah. Part of having a good defense is having an offense that can go out there and score 99 points a game. So that's what I'm going to do for my number one. Drew Aller, I know you said you're not leaving. You're happy at Penn State, but you don't know how long James Franklin's going to be around because, that guy in Michigan as the interim coach already has as many top 15 wins as he does. And then Chris Marshall and Evan Stewart. I know Evan Stewart, you want him to go to Texas very badly. But for the sake of this argument, I'm sending them all to USC so we can have fun USC football, maintaining that weird series of successes in a row just because I can.
Well, actually, if I have any, I guess, qualms with your choice here, it's not with Evan Stewart. I mean, I look at the last couple years, the star receivers that USC has gotten to transfer to them. Jordan Addison and Lincoln Riley's first year. Oh, help me out. Oh, Dorian Singer this
Dorian.
year. But the one I do have the issue with, and it's not because he says he's happy at Penn State, because obviously I know this is hypothetical. But Drew Aller, I look at, I look at Drew Aller. He's got all kinds of potential. But the thing is, the reason I wonder with this one is because there's another quarterback that's coming into USC next year named Malachi Nelson, who is very good. And I'm just going to put it like that. I've seen him play several times, watched him in the Elite 11s. And so I guess for this move to work, Drew Aller, I guess, would have to be very confident that he's going to start over Malachi Nelson. And that's not going to be an easy task. Malachi Nelson has
Um,
all the potential in the world.
I'd like to remind you, Les, that I don't follow high school recruiting in any way, shape, or form.
Even though that's like what we do on this podcast, bro. Come on now.
You're the recruiting guy. I'm the transfer guy.
Fair enough. You're the small school guy, I'm the big school guy. You're the transfer guy, I'm the recruiting guy. That's just our dynamic and it works
That's just
beautifully.
our dynamic. So I kind of have a tendency to overlook a bunch of 19-year-olds.
Fair enough. I mean, and besides, I mean, you never
That's
know.
a
I
good
mean, you
point.
you might be right because I mean, like Lincoln Riley might actually want to go with Aller's experience over Nelson's talent. You just never know.
And like I said, this is a hypothetical world. Like none of these people exist. Maybe this is in a universe where the Thanos snap happened, and we're kind of limited on people.
Fair enough. I love the Marvel reference too, by the way.
I had to have some fun with it.
Oh, we
All right,
got to.
let's ready
That's the
for your
whole
number
point of the
one.
show. Yeah, I got my number one, and I'm also going with a quarterback.
Oh
I'm
boy,
going, yeah, I'm going Brock Vandergrift to Oregon. So since I do follow recruiting, Vandergrift is a former four-star prospect and formerly the number 5 ranked quarterback in the class of 2021, and could be looking for a change of scenery after losing the quarterback battle to Carson Beck in Georgia this spring. Oregon has my vote because you know who his lead recruiter was when he committed to Georgia initially? Dan
Dan
Lanning.
Lane.
And with Bo Nix finally out of eligibility, I mean, how long have we been saying? How long has this guy been in college football? Um, Vandergrift could be the next SEC quarterback that Lanning lands in Eugene.
Lanning lands.
Lanning lands. Hey, a lot of puns there. But yeah, so my number one is actually Brock Vandergrift to Oregon.
That would be a fun, realistic move. I'm out here playing fantasy football, and you're like trying to be realistic, and I feel bad.
No, I think that even adds to our dynamic. You're playing fantasy football. I'm
I've
have a
just
more
watched so
strategic approach, I guess. I don't know.
I'm
The
just
thing, the
watching.
crazy part about this is like yours have just as much of a like opportunity to happen as mine do. That's why they're hypothetical.
That would be kind of fun to see, like if any of these actually do happen.
That would be hilarious.
Of
If
course,
all right, Matt, honest question though. If you
yeah.
had to sell your house on one of yours actually happening, which one are you going with?
Ooh, that's a good question. Do I get to pick like any combination, or do I just get to pick like one from the combinations?
I mean, hell, just I mean, we got plenty of time. If you want to rank them from like odds of happening to like the one that you were the
Okay.
most high on happening to the least likely you're happening. Hey, let's do it. We got plenty of time. We flew through this episode.
Okay. Well, I think number one for me would be the any of those guys to Ohio State. Just because Ohio State fans are restless, they're pissed off at Ryan Day, they're not sold on Kyle McCord. I think Will Rogers would be a good thing for that. Then I'd take the Michigan picks just because no. Then I take the wide receivers to USC as like number two. Like you said, the Drew Aller thing is just me having fun.
Right, right.
So I would take the wide receivers to USC number two. Then the guys to Michigan at number three, just because Michigan has like incredible NIL and incredible culture, and they would probably pay a lot of money. How that shapes out just depends on like their how the scandal they're going through goes. Then the Nebraska guys, and then the Colorado thing, because there's no way you're getting four guys to transfer
No
into
way. Yeah.
Colorado like that.
Right.
I know they brought some 80 guys in from the portal, but they're not getting like five Division One starting offensive linemen. That's just me trying to make the Big 12 a little bit more. God, that's weird to say.
It's
That's just
so
me trying
weird
to
to
make.
say.
That's just trying to make the Big 12 a little bit more fun next year. So that's what I think. But yeah, Ohio. One of those guys going to Ohio State first, then the wide receivers to USC because they've built a culture on that, and I think kids see that. Then the Michigan, then the Nebraska, then the Colorado.
Fair enough. I'm actually going to do the opposite. I'm going to go with the least likely to happen to the most likely to happen. So the least likely to happen to me is going to be Ashton Genty to Notre Dame because like
Yeah,
there's no like there's nothing on this that would even imply that this is what he wants to do. We don't even know if he's like unhappy in Boise. I mean, everything I've seen from him on Twitter, he seems happy in Boise, but again, of course, I don't know the guy. I'm not like actively talking to him, so I really can't say. And not to mention, if he does decide to transfer, why would it be Notre Dame? Not to mention, Estime could even come back. So, like,
Yeah.
how do we know he's even going to get the minutes in Notre Dame? Because obviously, as talented of a back as Genty is, and I think he's, in my opinion, the best running back in the nation. I mean, Estime is more familiar with the system. So if he does come back, they're not going to go with a new guy over him, a guy that scored 18 touchdowns and had 1,300 yards this year. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So least likely is Genty to Notre Dame. Four, I think Smoke Bowie to Colorado. Um, even though like it sounds good, again, this guy hasn't played, and I feel like with this season, I mean, he's played 7 games in his career, I should say, and I feel like at this point, given the season that they just had with Colorado, starting really hot and then completely shitting the bed the last 8 games of the season or whatever it is, yeah, just completely shitting the bed the last 8 games or whatever. I feel like Coach Prime is going to want players that are experienced to come in and fix the defense. That's just
You know
my
what I
opinion.
actually you know what I actually had for my Colorado pick?
What?
Speaking of course, I had Deuce Chestnut from LSU coming to
Mm,
Colorado.
I like that. Not to mention, I would love the NIL move there with Deuce Chestnut.
Yes, he's gonna roast you on an open fire.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
That would
So what am
actually be
I? The fourth least likely to happen. Um, so I guess coming into the number 3 spot, I guess that would be um Will Rogers to Louisville because again, the only reason I say that is because even though I like the fit and all that, um, why would you want to go to the SEC to the ACC, especially with the ACC kind of like dwindling down as a Power Five conference?
well, I
Um,
don't know. That would make it easier. You were talking about you want to win. Your toughest game being against Clemson with the state they're in right now is a lot better than your toughest game being Alabama.
true, true. So I guess number 2, I guess now we're getting into the most. So I guess still kind of teetering on the Will Rogers to Louisville. Number 2, I guess I'm teetering in more now the most likely to have in territory. Malik Murphy to Washington. I just think that's going to be too good of a fit. They're going to need another quarterback. Penix is gone. Malik Murphy's got a cannon.
And
Their
make
offense is predicated on the deep ball. I just think it's a perfect fit. Not to mention he's got the weapons to make it work. So even with like Roma Dunze more than likely going, I mean they're I just with Kalen DeBoer, I think they're just going to find a way to make it work with the deep ball. So I would say Malik Murphy to Washington is my second most likely. So that leaves my number 1 most likely, and that's obviously Brock Vandergrift to Oregon. And that's obviously because of the connection to Dan Lanning. He's the guy who recruited him to go to Georgia. Bo Nix is out of eligibility,
that's
and
just how it works. Yeah.
that's just how it works. And not to mention, we just have like I mean, given Dan Lanning's tenure in Oregon already, I mean, he went with one former SEC quarterback to now another former SEC quarterback. It just makes too much sense.
Yeah. I try to. I want to make sure I look up this guy's name correctly so I get the name right. But the another thing I'm interested to see is Wisconsin. They have a really good running back named Braylon Allen, and
Yeah,
things have kind of gone weirdly in Wisconsin so far. So I'm interested to see what happens to that guy. I think he could be one of those dudes who kind of slips into the portal and ends up having like a huge impact wherever he goes next season too. I couldn't think of a team for him to go to at the moment. I played with the idea, much like you, of Notre Dame or Michigan or something like that. But yeah, I think he's one of those dudes who's going to sneak into the portal, and oh my god, he's going to sneak into the portal, and I think he could be a big impact player in one of the future mega conferences we're talking about now. Because that's going to be the other thing, Les. It's like what you were talking about with the SEC and the ACC. You're losing a lot of that. Like, oh, you didn't cut it in the SEC. We get it. It's a tough conference. It's got a lot of defense too. You've basically got two options. So you can go the Big Ten or you can go the ACC or the Big 12. The shifting landscape is once again going to play a very intriguing role in watching how guys decide where they want to go.
right. kind of like we were talking before the episode, I also teetered with another idea. I ended up scratching it from my top five right before we came on the show, but I also entertained the idea of Will Shipley going to Michigan. I think Michigan's going to be looking for a running back, maybe whether it be an up and coming running back or whether it be a running back through the portal. And,
Right.
Will Shipley is a very good college running back. I've often compared him and called him Christian McCaffrey 2.0 on this show. And that's the thing. I'm kind of almost regretting leaving him out because he's the one who's really hinted that he is entering the portal where Genty hasn't said Jenny, he's given us no idea at all that he even wants to leave Boise. So kind of regret
Yeah.
it for that reason, but I also just feel like Jenny to Notre Dame would just make too much sense and be too
It would
cool to
just be
watch.
fun, is what it would be.
Right. And now Bean, did you make a top five?
I
He
don't
wants
think
to Bean wants all the top players to go to like dog themed schools. That's what he wants.
being Georgetown doesn't have a football team.
He's like, well, they will after I get done funding them. Well, Bean, if you got all this money, you need to help your dad out pay bills, bud.
Bean is going to send all the kids to Southern Illinois. They're going to be Salukis.
Oh Lord. Oh gosh.
He likes that idea. He likes that idea. Bean's not a Saluki, I don't think. What
Bean is a
the
Chihuahua rat terrier.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, there is a terrier, but I don't think they have a football program either. I don't think Boston University has a football program.
No, they don't.
Well, Wofford does. I think they're the Wofford Terriers. He could send everybody to Wofford.
You want to send everybody to Wofford?
Look at that face. That face
Mm,
is yes.
he's very intrigued.
Bean, Wofford's #1 fan.
I need to get him like a little Wofford onesie or something.
Oh my God, that would be so great with the big W in the front.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, I need to. When I finally get it for him, I need to have him on the show wearing the Wofford onesie.
I offer this to everybody. I want to say this every time. It's like if there's a mid-major school fan, AD, or anything that like happens upon this podcast, if you send me anything from your school, I will wear it proudly on the podcast.
I also want to repeat that message because if we get shouted out by any university and they send us merch, like we will happily rock it on the podcast.
LIU, Brooklyn, Toledo. Come on, just send me something cool and I will wear it. I have a lot of mid-major
You already
hats
know what
that.
I'm going to say, Matt. You already
What
know
are
what
you?
I'm going to say.
What are you gonna say?
Boise State, if you want to send me some merch, I will happily rock it on the podcast.
I
Because,
will also wear.
it's not a Less is More Sports podcast without shouting out Boise State.
We've done that several times, so we've hit the quota, and that's what matters. But
I
yeah,
think we've exceeded the quote on that one. Oh, I don't know if Bean likes Boise State though, because as soon as I start bringing up Boise State, he comes back.
Bean's a New Mexico fan, and he knows it.
You were really high on New Mexico, and I think Bean really liked that idea.
Bean really likes that idea. I really, I'm trying to think about how many hats I have. I know I have a UL Lafayette Raging Cajun hat. I have an Evansville Purple Aces hat. I have a Murray State Racers hat. What I really want though, Les, is I want a hat from Transylvania University down
I
in
could probably
Lexington.
hook you up with one, low key.
Ooh, you have to let me know because their
I mean, maybe
mascot.
I would have. It would be a really awkward conversation because I actually like when I was a sports editor for the Sentinel News. A lot of the athletes that I covered actually ended up going committing to Transylvania. So I'm sure they might have a spare hat that they just not wearing
Oh
anymore.
my God! Now the reason why I say this, Les, is because they're the pioneers in terms of like what their team name is, but their mascot is a Raffinesque big ears bat, which looks
Hmm.
absolutely badass because of the famous 19th century naturalist Constantine Raffinesque, who's actually buried at Transylvania University in a tomb under some steps. The fun fact is he actually cursed the school after they fired him, and so to like undo the curse, they buried him at the school.
What's crazy is I feel like you now know more about the history of Transylvania than majority of the students do.
Oh, dude, Transylvania University is like some of the coolest history you'll ever read. It ties into one of the early governors of Kentucky who got involved in a political scandal after he forcibly removed their president. The Clay family, Henry and Cassius Marcellus Clay, not Muhammad Ali, Cassius Marcellus Clay, who's just a badass figure in the history of Kentucky and the United States. Oh my God, I'm doing that nerd thing.
That's great. We do we still call like our podcast room, the bedroom of nerds, or is that kind of died
We're
out? You know, at least we waited to the end of the show for Matt to actually start cutting out. Let's wait a second to see if he comes back. Waiting, waiting, waiting. I think we lost Matt's connection. Hold on one second. Oh, is he coming back? All right, I have gotten the heads up to wrap the show up because Matt is experiencing some technical difficulties.
I'm back. I'm
Oh, he's
here.
back. Just
That
as
was
I
enough
got the
talk.
message to wrap the show up, too.
That was enough talk about Transylvania University, I guess. But yeah, Constantine Rafinesque, very interesting guy, early naturalist, friend of John James Audubon. They had a very awkward slumber party once where he broke it, where
Wink,
Rafinesque
wink,
broke
nudge,
Audubon.
nudge.
Yeah, well, this isn't a and they were roommates situation. This is a Constantine Raff. John James Audubon awoke in the middle of the night to find Constantine Rafinesque swatting at a bat in the naked with a his favorite violin, which he subsequently broke. So to get back at him, Audubon invented like a bunch of fictional species of rat and bird and gave them to him. Like, oh yeah, these are totally real, bruh. And it turned out they weren't real, and they kind of got into a little feud over that. But that's a fun fact about history that you know now. But yes, Transylvania University. I would love to have anything with that Rafinesque figures bat on it.
You know, that is the history information that I didn't know that I actually needed.
This
That's
is what
awesome.
fun fact. I've been doing this with Les for like 3.5 years, and it's a lot of fun. But if I actually did like my own independent podcast, this is the kind of stuff I would talk about.
Which, would be endorsed by me because
I know.
I'm going to tell everyone to send it your way, bud.
Welcome to the Weird History Podcast with Matt McClellan, where we talk about why Transylvania University's mascot is a bat.
I love it. But we are officially running out of time. The show just came and went. We sped through the show, and now the last couple minutes just flew by. So, anyways, as always, like and subscribe to Less is More Sports YouTube and Spotify channel to hear our latest episodes. Follow our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Threads at Less is More Sports. And until next time, be sure to read up on your history about Transylvania University.
Please send me a bat thing.
Please send Matt a bat. Please send me some Boise State merch. Please send Bean a Wofford onesie.
'Tis the season.
Tis the season. Hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. Forgot I should have led the show with that. What am I doing?
it's too late. We're still eating leftovers. You're fine.
Fair enough. All right, that's all the time we have for you. For that's all the time we have. Bye.
We'll see you next time.